Warning. This podcast is about to open the sealed section of spirituality. Hey you, yeah you, we see you, you divine human being.
And we are calling you to come home.
We are ready to talk about the real shit. We're going to get real about life as a divine human being.
The good, the not so great, spirituality and taboo. Divinely Human is the podcast that's all about what it means to be human in a spiritual context.
We know it's not just about being spiritual, it's about being human too.
And that means changing poopy nappies and channeling angels.
Sometimes even at the same time. It's time for us to stop making other people's noise our own soundtrack of life.
Let's make some waves together so that we can all ride them together and create deep resonance, a sense of home in this crazy world.
Pour yourself a coffee
Or a glass of wine if that's your potion.
and sit down with your new favorite spiritual sisters
As we go on a journey together into what it means to be
a divine human being.
on this spiritual journey.
Welcome to the Divinely Human podcast. I am Tanita.
And I am Aleisha.
And we are so excited to have you here for episode 5 of the Divinely Human podcast. Honestly, I can't believe it is episode 5 already. I've been loving this. Yep, it's actually episode 6, and you'll hear us make the same mistake over and over again through the episode. Sorry.
It's really surreal. I'm like, wow, we've done 5 now.
I know, it's crazy. So you guys probably know the drill by now. We're going to pick a topic out of the hat, or whatever contraption Aleisha has today. Sometimes
what am I going to have? I want to do something really weird and have like a gumboot one day or something, or like a bucket or a...
Literally, baby, we should just bring a new thing every single time. Like, what is she going to pull it out of this time?
like some sort of animal holding a like container or something.
Oh, I love that.
Anyway,
that is so funny.
Sorry. Carry on.
If you guys have topics that you want us to discuss on the podcast, we'd love to hear what you have in store for us. You can head to us over on Instagram or follow the link down below. We will be pulling a card for everybody's topic that we pull out, just as a way to say thank you and to say thank you, because we want this to be a collaborative experience. We want to hear what you guys want to talk about. So yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh.
We're off to a good start already.
Okay. So for those of you who aren't watching, I'm just reaching in and grabbing a card. I always feel low-key nervous. I'm like, oh God, what truth bomb are we going to land today? Okay. So today's topic is that we will be starting off with, twin flame, karmic, and soul connections. Is the twin flame journey all hype? And this one was sent in by a beautiful person in the community, so we will be pulling a card at the end for her as well. This is a really a much needed conversation, because I feel like the spiritual community romanticizes twin flame and like karmic relationships in quite a toxic way. Do you agree?
Yeah, I was really curious to hear your perspective on this, because I agree to a certain degree. And I think a conversation around, again, discernment, which is kind of a story and a topic of highlight around Aleisha and I at the present moment. I think that also weaves its way into this as well. For me, I believe and I know that we have karmic ties to certain souls in lives that come online and that we are brought to our awareness to heal and to unravel. With the twin flames, for me, I do feel like it's been romanticized in a really toxic way, and in a way that actually holds us back from evolving and experiencing love in all the many different facets that it can be experienced in. And I do really see, and I have firsthand seen a lot of harm that can happen when people do buy into the belief that I'm here for one person and one person only, and if they don't love me, then I have to remain in solitude. And that to me is just not aligned with my values as a human being. It might be aligned for other people, and I want to bring that perspective to the table as well, and just remind you that we're speaking from opinion today, not of fact. Does that yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like this leads us into a really important note as well, and that on what you just touched on about it being people relying on solely one person to fulfill their relationship during this lifetime. Okay, whether it's, whether you feel like it's a twin flame or whether you feel like it's a soulmate or whatnot, it is really important to acknowledge that you might have 3 relationships, 4 relationships that are soulmate relationships. You might have 7 or 8 that are twin flame relationships in the one lifetime. It isn't condensed just to that one experience, because we're here to experience all fragments. We're here to experience the complexity of every single angle that this universe has to offer us. And that's the first thing I feel like we have an issue with in terms of the information that's shared, is that we kind of boil it down to, are they my soulmate? Are they not? Are they my twin flame? Are they not? And it's like, once we disassociate and remove that label, I think that is the pathway to a healthy relationship first and foremost. But just not tying. I'm not saying don't commit to somebody. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when we bring labels into it, we can't just slap down a label for, one person for our whole lifetime, because we are here to live and feel into so many different experiences.
Oh yeah, totally. I totally agree here. And you know what was just coming, and I wonder how this is related. I'm going to share it because it came through. Women have been, I don't know what the right word is here, but dragged through the mud for loving more than one person. Like, can we just talk about women being able to have multiple different relationships? Like, the word slut and whore has been thrown around for so fucking long. And I'm so over it. Like, haven't we come to a point in our evolution as a community, as a society, as humanity, where we get to embrace our own sexuality, we get to embrace our own choices, and we get to embrace the fact that we don't have to succumb to something just because it once was. Like, I'm again on the same page as Aleisha. I'm not talking here about, cheating against people and, treating people like dirt and not committing yourself to a relationship. I'm talking about subscribing to a set of beliefs because you've been told to, and not allowing yourself to experience more than what's being asked of you or what you've been told to do. And I think this plays into it in a way, because to me, the underlying story of twin flame, in terms of like, you've only got one person, you have to stick with them until you release all karmic ties to them, is just a way to keep women and men small. And I'm not down for that.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh my goodness. I was like trying not to butt in to agree with you just then, because yes. And if we think about it, where this goes back to, roots back to, it is back to, that man-made ideology that like anyone who's in the same position as we are as women, our ancestors have gone through that whole like men trying to squash the power of women down, because we're fucking powerful. And like, let's not even get into sexual like energy and power in itself. Like, that in itself is a fucking superpower. But it does go back to that, just wanting to bring women down and make them smaller than they are, and tell them that they need to subscribe to one thing or another, you know. And as you said, like, it really isn't about, you know, going out and, you know, cheating on your partner or anything, but it's about being open to allowing an end of something to arise to then experience something else, and not subscribing to pushing away and pushing down toxic relationships, toxic behavior within relationships, and blaming it on, like, oh, but they're my soulmate, or it's just a twin flame relationship. We fight all the time. And it's like, well, if it's a hostile environment, get the fuck out. Like, you don't need to actually subscribe to that twin flame, soulmate, fucking unicorn. I don't care what it is. Like, we need to, first and foremost, as women, realize when we're in a situation that is toxic, because I know this is going a bit off track, but we really do have a huge issue with, you know, women who are feeling really disempowered and just continue to stay in relationships because of this label that, you know, this culture gives these things to romanticize them. And I mean, let's be honest, like some twin flame relationships, they're not terrible. Like, I've been in twin flame relationships before, and they have been the most heightening, expansive, destructive, heartbreaking, but also fulfilling at times experiences. But yeah, we are supposed to cycle through that, you know. We're not supposed to sort of stay in that mode of destruction and like up and down, up and down, up and down constantly within the one relationship. Like, we do need to meet in the middle somewhere there. So I think that they're very important, and they do serve a purpose, because we learn, well, I feel like this is just my personal point of view and my own experience coming into this now, but I've learned so many of my big lessons through those twin flame relationships. But at the end of the day, sitting back now and looking back at it, I can acknowledge that I'm really grateful that they weren't lifelong experiences for me.
I love that. And you know, yeah, what you said was so important. It's like, just because you slap a label on it doesn't make it good. Like, toxic is toxic. You know, we can glitter it up and put some like icing on the top, but it's still toxic. And if it is still toxic, putting a label on it doesn't change the fact. So this is a massive, like, just reminder that if you're going through something that is not safe, get out of it. Doesn't matter what you call it, doesn't matter what you think it might be. If it is what it is, you need to acknowledge the reality and protect yourself. And you're so right. Like, we can honor these things for what they are, and hold them in high regard. And I never want somebody to close themselves down because they were told it's a twin flame or it's their soulmate. And that to me is just sad. And if it is a really beautiful experience, because like you were saying, there are really beautiful twin flame relationships and soulmates out there, and that's beautiful, and I love that for you. But for those who are in toxic twin flame relationships, you need to call it for what it is and look at things from a realistic point of view. Sometimes in the spiritual community, we can look at things with a lot of delusion, and it's important to just ground in and look at things from a realistic point of view and understand, why am I putting this label on it? Why, like, what am I getting out of this? So many people, they want to put the label of soulmate on there because they're craving a really deep and beautiful relationship, and for them the safety comes with the term, not with the person, and that's where the problem lies.
Yeah 100%. I totally agree with you. And in saying that as well, like, there's some twin flame style relationships, you know, are lifelong for people. And that's beautiful. It's so beautiful and sacred and wonderful, as long as it's healthy, of course, and feels okay and right. And obviously not toxic all the time. But I feel like a lot of the time, twin flame relationships for me have been like, the big lesson has been in leaving them and actually ending them. And it's one of those things for me, obviously, another personal view and from my experience, is that a lot of my lessons in self-love and self-respect and just really acknowledging that, like, I don't need to put anyone on a pedestal, and that's so silly, have come from twin flame relationships where I've met someone and I've put them on a pedestal and like the be all and end all, you know, of people. And then it gets to the point where you like, you have that aha moment and you're like, hang on a second. Yeah. I'm pretty fucking amazing too. I don't need to deal with this. Bye. And then it's like that, it's just that euphoric moment where it clicks and you're like, oh, I have so much love for myself and so much respect, and I don't need to do that, you know. And then that's the lesson, you know. So it is important to acknowledge that sometimes those types of twin flame relationships are there to teach you that you can go through an ending of something and it has a positive thing that comes out of it, you know, rather than hanging on to that toxicity and not seeing it. And as you said, it's really important to read the energy. Energy doesn't lie. If it doesn't feel good, you're probably not supposed to be there, right?
Yeah. What did we say the other day? We're like, I think we were texting you like, if it doesn't feel good, it's because it's not. Like, you know, like, let's just be real. Sometimes the answer is so simple.
It's like,
yeah,
smack on the head.
Literally. That's interesting. I think that's a really important thing to note. And we're not saying go and leave your partner just to experience an ending. Like,
no.
don't
Please
like
don't.
twist it. Yeah. We're just saying, I think the most important thing and something that we both hold in high regard is individuality and self-empowerment, and being able to recognize that the people around you and the relationships that you have should be like an addition to an already very stable and flourishing foundation that is you. And sometimes we do need to go through those breakups to understand, like, oh, I can handle crap by myself. I am actually worthy of something more. And I think that's really beautiful that now you can sit and reflect, because I'm sure and I know that there are people out there who do stay in relationships that aren't serving them anymore because they've been told. And this is another thing I really want to get into, you know, told that they are in a soulmate relationship. And like, please, people, can we stop putting other people's advice over our own? Like, if you have been told by a healer, by a psychic, by a reader that you are in a soulmate relationship and it doesn't feel like it, don't fucking listen to that person.
This is yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. And it's funny, I get this all the time. Yeah. And it comes up in readings all the time as well, you know, where people tend to sort of want to ask if, you know, if they're in, like, is this relationship good? Like, should I end it and stuff like that? And I'm like, I refuse, because we're not here to read into like anyone else. And like, that's just crossing a boundary for starters. If you ever go to someone and they're like, nah, leave, then yeah, I definitely urge you to maybe just don't take that advice.
If your reader is telling you to leave, you should leave your reader.
100%. I feel like it's just no one's business but your own, and it's also no one else's journey to kind of pierce and put their energy into, and I don't care if it's psychic advice or not, like it's just not anyone else's thing to get into.
Yeah, exactly. And there are so many responsibilities that a psychic and reader does hold. And one of them is not reading into energy that hasn't granted permission to be read. And that's really important. So, again, like using discernment around where you actually subscribe the belief that this is your twin flame or soulmate, and explore why you believe that to be true and what you're actually looking from the relationship for as well. Like, I think that when we put the label of twin flame or soulmate on things, then we expect certain things from them. And it's okay to have expectations in a relationship, but explore whether they're actually coming from you and your true, authentic desires, or they're coming through from that label that's been subscribed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And in saying that as well, like all of this stuff that we're speaking about, it's not like it's not reserved only for either like a twin flame relationship or a soulmate relationship or anything in between. Like this sort of like toxicity can come in all forms in every single kind of relationship. And it's just like another reason why I don't kind of get too heavily involved in the whole karmic twin flame thing. I do see its value in understanding dynamics, but I don't allow it to influence my judgment when I am jumping into relationships or connections of any kind.
Yeah, same here. That's so true, because you came into this world with this body, with this soul, to explore your own authentic desires. And first and foremost, you have to trust yourself. So many of us are learning to build that trust muscle within ourselves. And when we place higher value on things like labels or like subscribed beliefs, then we're really taking away from our own ability to tune in and trust what we want and what we desire out of something as well. And I think we'll scream it until my lungs are dead. Like, you have to be able to trust yourself first and foremost. And if you believe that this is a karmic relationship, a twin flame, a soulmate, somebody that you have in your life that, I don't know, serves a higher purpose, explore what that actually means to you. And again, like, trust what you want out of this as well.
Yeah, because it can come in all different kind of forms, and we don't need to always attach the labels to it. I am not a fan of labels at all. Like, fuck the labels. I can't do them anymore.
I saw this girl on Instagram. Her name is Maddie Blanche. I think I might be butchering her last name, but I saw she changed her bio like last year. She was like, I'm not subscribing to labels. I am me. And I was like, girl, I love that, because you're so right. Labels can just keep us in a box sometimes. And you're so much more than a label. You're so much more.
I also saw a girl the other day on Instagram, and her whole bio, it just said, I can't fit into this.
Oh, I love that.
And I was like, I adore that. And I was in awe because it's so true. And I mean, going on a tangent now, but I feel like we attach ourselves to labels in general so much, but not even intentional. Like I think as human beings, we tend to want the safety of a label to hide under. And it's in that like removal or like kind of coming out from underneath that umbrella that is one of the most scariest feelings in the world, because you're vulnerable. You're like, I am seen, everyone can see me, I'm not hiding behind this thing, this word, this phrase. But it's also so empowering as well when you just choose not to subscribe to it.
Yeah, 100%. And don't you feel like we shrink ourselves to fit inside the bio box? Like, what's in my bio box is like one millionth of who I am as a person. And we shrink down, and because we spend so much time in the spaces where we have labels, we start to identify wholly as them. And then when we step outside, like Leisha's saying, we get to be like, oh, that's right, like I'm so much more than just a mom, or just a reader, or just somebody who works a 9 to 5. Like I'm worth so much more, and I have so many other qualities. And this is kind of leaning on our conversation around identity from last week, but it's important to explore who you are. And again, with relationships, you have to know who you are in a relationship too, otherwise we can get really lost. And codependency is a really big thing out in the world at the moment. Losing yourself in a relationship.
Yeah. I was actually having this conversation with my partner last night.
Really?
Because I don't know why, but we were just having this conversation. He came home from work and we were just sitting in my office, just hiding from the kids as you do, hoping they don't come in, and having that one adult to adult conversation that you get to have a day, if not maybe once a week. So we were just hiding out in my office. And I don't know how the conversation even came about, but he was like, oh, I would just miss you so much if we weren't together, if anything ever happened. And I said, yeah, I think I'd miss you too. And then I joked and said, like, we both drive each other crazy, but at the end of the day, like, we do lean on each other. And I did mention to him, I said, it's natural to do that to an extent in a relationship, right? It's natural to sort of meld your energy with the other person's and allow that to kind of like go into this centrifugal force and become one. But it's really important to also have that inner knowing that if anything would happen, like you're going to be okay. Your whole life doesn't have to crumble.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just really funny. We were having that conversation last night. He was like, yeah, he's like, I really do see how people do get consumed in relationships. And I said, well, when I met you, you were the opposite. I was like, man, how do I hook this guy? Like, he's so independent. Like, why does he only want to see me once a week? And then now it's for him to see him go through that transformation of now he's like, I don't know what I would do if anything happened to us. I'd miss you. I mean, as sweet as it is, it was such a powerful example of what happens in relationships. And I mean, that's not extreme. Like he wasn't like, I'll die if we're not together. But I know, and I have witnessed relationships where it has become that much of a crutch and that much of giving your power away and your energy away, where people are left with absolutely nothing, or what they assume is nothing, when they move on from that particular relationship.
Yeah, that's so powerful to be even able just to sit in that conversation and have that awareness around, like, we are leaning on each other, and we're allowed to create some boundaries around that as well, and still love each other wholeheartedly. I think that's really beautiful. And it's funny because my partner has taught me very similar. Like I have come from codependent relationships, and they have broken me. And so stepping into this relationship with my partner now, one of the first things he ever told me was, I can't make you happy. And I was like, bro, that's what you're here to do. Like, don't say that. But then he's like, no, because I never want your happiness to be taken away if I do something. You need to be able to source that for yourself and create it sustainably without being reliant on me, because that's not a sustainable source. I can't be here. And I was like, damn you, like, because it was such a massive thing to heal, but it's so true. And I'm so grateful that he shared that with me. And it's funny because it looks like both of us have gone through relationships where we have really sunk into each other, and now it's cool, we're able to sit here and have this conversation and be like, look at how far we've come. But it only came from trusting ourselves and putting ourselves first as well.
Yeah. What a powerful moment to hear him say that. But also, I mean, I empathize because at that point, when you were having that conversation, that would have felt very fragile and vulnerable and a bit like being thrown out into the sea a little bit, because you're like, what? You mean I'm responsible for my own happiness? And I just feel that so deeply, in the sense of entering relationships and really relying a lot on other people to enliven my life and to fill my life with joy, and kind of forgetting that I run that operation for myself, like no one else. And it's so funny that he said that. And I know through conversation that both of our partners are quite similar when it comes to personality and stuff like that. Because my partners also said similar things like that when we first met. And because we had open conversations, how I expressed to him that, he wasn't meeting my expectations. And then he turned around and said, well, I'm not supposed to be your source of happiness. And I'm like, like, how uncomfortable. But what a beautiful lesson. It's a very, very hard lesson to learn, and a very, very stripped back, vulnerable, tender lesson as a woman who has been in relationships before, where you have sort of, dived head first and lost yourself. So, so beautiful to actually sit here and speak about this now.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I love talking about these topics, because I love bringing our own personal experience into this. And we're never telling people, like, the first half of this conversation, it comes with basis, it comes with experience. And the other thing is, I'm like really curious, because I find that so many spiritual women, or women that I know, we attract really grounded, like, men. And I always find it so funny, because sometimes you just need that masculine energy to ground you and hold you and be like, look, we've done it this way before, but you can do it a different way. And if you don't have that person in your life to kind of ground you, you can be that for yourself. This is full permission slip to be exactly what you need and to source your desires from within. And I never truly understood that until he turned around and said, hey, I can't give this to you. Like, and that's when that really came online for me. So I love that we're able to talk about this.
I think that as well, anything that, and I still find myself, please don't be listening to this thinking that I've got it all figured out and I have like a perfect relationship, but I never have days where I feel, disempowered or any of that, because that's just not the case. I'm still learning and growing. But what is really interesting is that I was kind of thinking about this about 12 months ago, and I was thinking anything outside of yourself, anything in a relationship, whether it's twin flame, karmic, soulmate, anything that you are feeling or experiencing should just be a bonus on top of your already, unraveling journey that you're creating for yourself, that you're manifesting and in full motion, living, experiencing. Anything that a partner brings in and offers on the table it should just be a bonus. It shouldn't make up your sense of feeling whole. That's when it becomes a problem. And that's when it sort of builds up and manifests into this lack and this living in scarcity and this operating from, like, in a relationship, operating from fear and lack and not enough. And then you sort of become part of this really desperate cycle of needing and wanting and scarcity and fear, and you lose yourself. Like, there's just I've been there, and I'm just speaking from experience. And I do think it is really important to know that and acknowledge that anything else that comes into your field is purely just a bonus. And you should really don't think that you found the perfect relationship and I've got my soulmate, so now like I'm going to be happy forever and I don't need to do any of the inner work. Like, no, because life's not a postcard. Like, life's and I know that, social media, what's displayed on there is an absolute fucking lie these days. It's just a postcard of people's lives. Life isn't like that. And it's really important to just take a moment to see that. And
yeah, that's such a good way of putting it. I love that, especially that image of like, I see people who feel like they need relationships to fill up certain gaps within themselves, but you're right, like you're already whole. And sometimes the evidence that you have around you isn't supportive of what you need to remember. So this is a reminder that you can source your own evidence as well and go out and find real life examples of people who, I don't know, who inspire you, I guess, because we need more realness around us. And that does not come always from social media. Some people really do try to be very real about things on social media, and some people really don't.
No, yeah. As well, I've just had something come through then too, just going back to what you said about filling the gaps. So I think too, what can happen is that when you feel like you have gaps that need to be filled by someone else, even though that's your lack, you end up projecting that onto the other person, and it ends up causing so much tension and frustration, and like it all comes to a boiling point. So you immediately reflect and put that on the other person, saying like, you're doing this and I'm not happy, and blah, or I'm not getting this and I'm not happy, because you have the empty blocks that you're not feeling for yourself. And it's like, and then I'm like, oh, we also need to remember that sometimes, I know that we're like, oh, that person's my twin flame and it's really toxic and stuff. Like, well, yeah, maybe sometimes you are the toxic person in that other person's life. Like, it's not always the other person.
Yes, let's have some responsibility.
Yes, and just accountability for how we manage our energy. I know that's a lifelong lesson though. I mean, I'm still chugging along. But it's a really important lesson, and it's an ever unfolding lesson that I don't think we'll ever learn and master that, but we can definitely strive towards it, and just learning how to manage that energy and learning how to like integrate it and deal with it before we decide to just project it onto someone else, and I think and hurt someone else with it.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like this calls for a reminder that the perfect person does not exist, and that includes you as well.
Yeah.
Like, I think again, and I've seen this so much where people are like, I'm just waiting for my soulmate, like they're the perfect, wholesome person. It's like, I wish we could just remember that we're all on a healing journey. We're all unraveling every single layer it is with these different lessons that we come here to learn. And it's okay to acknowledge that sometimes, I'm the toxic person. Sometimes my inner mean girl, she comes out, she's the outer mean girl. And it's okay because I'm working through it. Like, it's just, it just reminds me too, like my partner, he loves to party, like loves it. He's such an outgoing Sagittarius classic. And when I fell pregnant, I really didn't like him going out at all, like really, really didn't like it. And this was when I was doing a lot of inner healing. And that's when I realized that I'd held this deep wound around not allowing myself to actually enjoy life and have fun. And like you said, I was projecting out onto him and like trying to control the fun because I felt unsafe in joy. And I just want to share this as a real life experience because it's so true what Aleisha was just saying. The wounds we have, we can project them onto other people, and it can feel like toxicity is coming, but we do have a role to play in the relationships. It's not always one-sided. And sometimes to heal, we need to look at how can I hold some accountability and responsibility, and what can I do about this? And nobody's perfect. We're all going through it.
Oh, you've just gifted me with a huge light bulb moment. I've never been able to put that into words, because I feel like I've been through that journey as well, because my partner's similar. He loves being social. Social is like, socializing is just his thing. He loves talking. He loves going out and being around groups of people. That's always triggered me. And just hearing you break that down just then has just gifted me with the explanation as to why it's so triggering for me, because I kind of block that. I block myself from wanting to do that, not wanting to, I just block myself from doing it, or allowing myself to experience that. So thank you.
That's okay. You're the one who started this. Sometimes we just need to hear it differently.
Yeah. I think that sometimes when we reframe things and rephrase them, it can just shift everything.
Yeah, definitely. This was such a good conversation. I love this.
Such a beautiful conversation, and such a beautiful point to finish on as well. Just always learning, no matter where you are. I'm like, wow, I've just processed and integrated something live on the podcast.
Just come here again if you want a free healing. That's totally fine, free of charge.
It just goes to show, though, how much storytelling is intertwined in the healing process for not just ourselves but others. And through storytelling and sharing our story, we enable others to be able to heal as well, because there's so much resonance with sharing and storytelling. So I love that. Thank you.
Yes, me too. Yeah, that's so true. And I'm so glad we get a space to do this with other people, So again, if you need to be seen in your story, you can always reach out to the DH podcast. Like, we're here to share stories and build a community with you guys and just witness you and exchange. So that inbox is always open.
Always open. So with that, I think that we should wrap it up and pull a card. Thank you to the beautiful soul who put in this topic. I feel like this has been a really gorgeous topic to just explore, and it's been really healing, and I really hope that it helps others sort of process this whole twin flame, karmic, soulmate relationship, romanticism happening at the moment in this space. So we are going to pull a card each for the beautiful soul that popped this topic in the cauldron. So funny, Tanita and I both picked the same deck of cards today without even telling each other.
Yes, I forgot.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so
Ooh. I'm so curious to see what you got.
no one just dropped on the floor. Okay. So the first card, well, my card that I've pulled for you is, I will pop it up. It'll be really reversed. It is Sekhmet, and she's all about forgiveness. So she's all about acknowledging the hurt and allowing yourself to ascend, which is really beautiful at the moment too, considering we've just gone through the new moon in Cancer. We've just reached midwinter, which we've just moved through the winter solstice, which is all about transmuting your shadows and allowing yourself to be empowered by your shadows and your darkness. And so for you, I'm feeling into this card really being a beacon that's calling out to you to really allow yourself to acknowledge that what you've been through has served such a beautiful purpose, even if it was not right, or it wasn't, obviously a very enjoyable experience moving through the shadows and what's important though is to acknowledge that this is happening for you, not to you. And in acknowledging what you've been through, you're able then to find empowerment and strength in the lessons that you've learned. So it's really asking you to use that to be the rocket fuel to move forward now and action this, action your next step. What are you moving into? What are you wanting to create and bring through? So that is what I'm getting for you.
That's beautiful. And it's funny because it's a very similar message over here, of course. This, you just took the message and melded it into two. I love it. This card is Mizzou. It's integrity. So it's asking you, remember what you stand for, especially when no one is looking. And like Aleisha was saying, it is important for you to understand where you're moving and the foundation that you're taking with you. And this is a really beautiful time for you to be able to choose with a really conscious awareness of what gets to come with you on this next chapter. I do feel like there is a big closing out that's happening in your life. And I do feel like there is a new evolution wanting to come online. And the beautiful thing about this is that you're at the helm of it. Like you are the one driving and steering this. And you get to choose the foundation that supports you through this. Meaning, when you lay there awake at night, who do you want beside you? Who do you want to be the one that holds your hand in your darkest hours? Whether that is just you, whether that's another person, that's for you to feel into. But I feel like this is really asking you to get very clear about what thoughts, what patterns, what behaviors do I get to make my new normal? So I'm excited for you. I'm really excited for you. And I'm so grateful you put this topic in because it's definitely a conversation that needed to happen. And I hope these card pulls served you. And I just, I see you wholeheartedly right now. And I'm excited to celebrate with you.
Thank you, beautiful soul. As always, you can find us at Divinely Human Podcast on Instagram and listen to us on Spotify, Anchor, and YouTube. Thank you so much, everybody who has tuned in today. We appreciate you so deeply, and we will see you next week on episode 6.
Yay, bye.
Bye.